Yo, we are back. And my name is Johnny, and I'm here to bring it to you the only way that I know how to bring it to you, live and direct. We got breaking news happening right now. The Tupac murder case is getting busted wide open. Things are coming out right now as we speak that I didn't know about. And I've been watching this thing closely for years. And there's been things that are coming out drip by drip that I had no idea about. But what I do know, and what I did know, is 9 times out of 10, Puffy, Sean P. Diddy Combs, knew something about Tupac murder. In fact, the first time Tupac got shot, he looked at Bad Boy. He was saying his whole life, the rest of his life, Tupac said from the rest of his life, from the time he got shot the first time, that Puffy had something to do with it. Now, I'm not saying the Notorious Big necessarily has something to do with it. I don't know about that yet. There's nothing linking Notorious Big to Tupac's death right now. But there has always been breadcrumbs that Puffy, Sean Diddy Combs, had something to do with Tupac's murder. He wanted them taken out. They became a threat to Bad Boy. In fact, the West Coast was running the music game. The West Coast was running the music game. And the East Coast couldn't find an artist really to take over the game. Therefore, you got injected Craig Mack. Craig Mack, he had a big hit, but he couldn't, as far as a thug and all that, the thug image they was going for, that was not Craig Mack. That wasn't Craig Mack. Craig Mack was more party type rap, and that's not what they were looking for with Bad Boy. They wanted a harder edge. So when he found Biggie, he started using West Coast beats, West Coast flavor, because as you know, them beats and stuff like that, them old school beats like that, that was not East Coast. East Coast had more, and you listen to East Coast today, they to this day, they don't use that. They don't use old funkadelic type beats like Dre was using. That was Dre's formula, is to take the funkadelic beats and stuff, with the heavy bass lines, all that. That was Dre. Dre made a name off of that because Dre was in a group and funk was his thing. So that you can't question that. That was Dre thing. Now, I'm not saying that the whole country to listen to that funk music, but that was by nature West Coast flavor. So when you had the Notorious Big come out, and if you listen to Notorious Big music before, like Puffy, really, he still had East Coast beats. Puffy convinced Biggie to start rapping on West Coast type flavor beats. And so you have Tupac to feel like, okay, he stole my style. He's talking about Chris style. He's talking about that. Supposedly Tupac had a conversation with Biggie, had several conversations with Biggie, talking about how he was going to change his style. He was going to stop talking about the thug life so much. He was going to start talking about the rich lifestyle. I got females and I'm a player like that. And so it happened that Biggie kind of ran off with that style. And that's where a lot of the friction came between Tupac and Biggie, because Tupac felt like Biggie stole his style. He felt like Biggie up and took a style and ran with it. So it gets deeper, y'all. I had no idea. Well, no, I did kind of know. I knew from rumors and things like that, that before Puffy had offered somebody $1 million to kill Tupac. Who did he offer $1 million to? Keefy G. Keefy D. Who just got arrested? Keefy D. And it was said that the ransom was paid to somebody else who wasn't Keefy D. The $1 million got paid to somebody by the one and only Sean P. Diddy Combs. It is so suspicious because they raided Keefy D's house in July. So the chips have been falling. They got in his laptop. They kind of start piecing their stories together. Then you had a documentary that came out, Rapper's Murder, or whatever that was, and that kind of blew. It's always these documentaries that just blows a lid wide open. It might have been a cold case, but these documentaries, same thing that took R. Kelly down, same thing that took a lot of these people down, were documentaries. When they came out, when they dropped, it's like, oh, okay, that's what happened. Now the cops have somewhere to go, and it's getting really crazy, y'all. But what we're gonna do is I want to show y'all this video so you can kind of get up to par as far as what we're talking about. You can kind of see it for yourself. This is getting crazy, y'all, because supposedly Sean Diddy Combs was or had something to do with Tupac's murder. And now it's going to come out, and this is crazy, y'all. So I'm going to go ahead and play these videos. Y'all check it out and let me know what y'all think, okay? Make sure y'all share and like. We're going to be on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. But if you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, okay? So let's check out this first video, y'all. This is getting really deep. Let's check it out.
Suge just ducked his head, and the first bullet went in his head, so the next one's hit him. It was like he was doing a breakdance trying to jump in the back seat or something.
You've all already heard the news that Keffe D was arrested. Let us, in this video, talk about who Keffe D is and how he is connected to Tupac's murder, and why Puff Daddy should be afraid for his future. After all, according to the words of the protagonist of our video, Tupac's murder is also partly because of the founder of Bad Boy Records. Everything that will be said next is quoted from Keffe D's interview and autobiography. Generally speaking, Keffe D, whose real name is Dwayne Davis, is a member of the Southside Compton Crips gang, which was involved in drug dealing. In the early 90s, he got to know a gangster called Eric Von Zip Martin, who was from the East Coast. People in his circle just called him Zip. Actually, it was Zip himself who introduced him to Sean Puffy Combs. Zip and Puffy were very close friends at that time. For Keffe D, Puffy was just a regular guy who was just starting out with his business. However, nowadays he hates him and genuinely regrets ever meeting the guy he calls a bastard. After meeting for the first time, Puffy and Keffe D reconnected with one another after a couple of months regarding renting a car for the artist Usher for the music video Can You Get With It. Puff paid Keffe $2,400 for the car. In the summer of '95, Zip came through the neighborhood and invited Keffe D to a party hosted by Puff, calling it the Beat Summer Jam. Suge Knight was at the party, and according to Keffe's opinion, Suge was already jealous of Puffy because of how well things were going for him at the time. Suge asked him where he knows them from, and he said, just like everyone else, from drug dealing. After that, the most epic Source Awards event took place, where Suge said,
any artist out there want to be an artist and want to stay a star, don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the videos, all on the records, dancing, come to Death Row.
These words completely destroyed the friendly relationship between Bad Boy Records and Death Row Records. However, the most intense shit happened in the 23rd of September 1995 at a party in Atlanta between the two enemy labels. Suge Knight confronted Puff Daddy and used physical power against him. Keith Murray said that Puff received a powerful slap from Suge.
And then Suge was like, yo, you all right? And Puffy was there. Then all of a sudden I saw Suge. Pow! Smacked the dog shit out of Puffy.
And here is Reggie Wright Jr. saying that it wasn't that dramatic.
But he did grab him by his collar and was blaming Puffy that night.
And anyway, this fight led to the murder of Suge Knight's close friend, Big Jake.
He was a good friend of us. He was a very good friend. You see them together often, and I think Suge trusted him a lot.
It's difficult to say who committed the murder. However, at the time, the entire mass media said that it was someone from Bad Boy Records' side. After this event, Puff called Zep, who asked him to put Keffe D on the line, and then told him, "Your boy, Big CEO, he's tripping." Naturally, these words were aimed at Suge Knight. Keffe D said that Puff was so scared that he hired ex-Navy SEALs wearing earpieces like they worked for the CIA in the hotel room right next to his suite.
And I'm scared of the big boy. I mean, you know, he didn't say it in that type of words, but we went to the concert, it was in San Diego, and this nigga had fucking Navy SEALs in the next room. It looked like the FBI with earpieces and everything.
Then
That's Keffe D. That's the guy who got arrested. That's the guy that was in the car. That's the guy who said he's seen Tupac take his last breaths and somebody in the back was shooting. That's the guy who passed the gun in the back of the car. Diddy hired him. Diddy hired him for security. Same dude that got arrested.
There was the meeting between Zip and Puff at a strip club. They were later joined by Keefe D himself. From there was the proposal that he would receive $1 million for the murder of Suge and Pac.
Even if he wasn't serious about it, but he did say that around.
It was floating in there. I'll just say that.
Plus, Puffy trying to see me weak, hearts I rip. Biggie Smalls and Junior Mafia, some mark-ass bitches.
This diss track from Tupac really pissed Puff Daddy off. In turn, Keefe D saw Pac a few times, and he appeared like a good guy to him. However, a little later, during one of the concerts, Tupac had to explain himself for the lines he read from the song California Love.
Worldwide, let 'em recognize from Long Beach to Rosecrans.
Some Southsiders were up at the House of Blues on Sunset, and they ran into Tupac. He was up there with Big Syke from the Outlaws. One of the members of the gang went up and grabbed Tupac by the collar and pushed him against a wall and said, "Man, you know what that Long Beach and Rosecrans stand for?" Later came the moment which led to Tupac later attacking Orlando Anderson. One of Keefe D's friends, called Victor, was one of the main high school footballers who was heading to college. And so, Keefe told him they want to give him a proper send-off before he leaves. While Victor was at the mall, he ran into 3 Pyrus gang members who were down with Death Row's crew. People from the Pyrus gang were beating up Victor at the mall. That same time, people from the Southsiders gang entered the mall. They didn't know that Victor is a member of the gang. When Victor saw that his allies had entered the mall, he told the people beating him up that now the real battle begins. Victor knocked out one of them and grabbed the Death Row Records chain. Trip to the store had to be canceled. That fight changed the rap game once and for all. On the 7th of September 1996, Keefe D and his guys attended the Mike Tyson match, just as Tupac and his own guys were at the game. After the match, they headed to the prearranged meeting place where they waited for about 15 minutes. Little by little, everybody started showing up except for his nephew. Next, Keefe D was told that someone had attacked his nephew. They came to find out later, the same dude from the Lakewood Mall that got his chain snatched was walking with Tupac when they saw Baby Lane in the lobby of the MGM. They rushed up out of the cafe and went to find Baby Lane, who was actually Orlando Anderson. They saw him inside the MGM minutes after they had jumped him. By the time they got there, Suge, Pac, and their crew had already left. Baby Lane's shoulder was a little messed up, but other than that, he was alright. When Keefe D asked him what happened, he said, "Death Row guys rushed me. One of them guys from the Lakewood Mall was running with the boy that started that shit." He couldn't let that go. For him, it was seriously humiliating that some guys from the music industry had beaten up his nephew. What's more is that Puff had already asked for help, and that Suge had absolutely not appreciated the help that he had received in founding of the label. So, they decided to take revenge. They knew that Suge and Pac were heading down the 662. While they were waiting for the valet to bring out their cars, Zip seized the opportunity and called Keefe D over to his Benz. As he walked up to the driver's side window, he noticed that Foxy Brown was in the car with Zip. So, Zip instructed her to step out of the car and motioned for him to jump in. Zip had a hidden compartment that he opened up, reached in, and pulled a black 40 Glock out. He turned to Keefe and said, "It's time to get the money." Keefe D hopped out of the car, held the door open for Foxy Brown to get back in, closed the door, and they pulled off. At the beginning, him and his guys waited for them for an hour and a half. However, no one showed up, and Keefe D said that it was time to head out. Their next destination was the Carriage House, a Las Vegas hotel where they had rented a few rooms as a kickback spot. On the way to the Carriage House, they stopped by the liquor barn to buy some bottles of Dom Perignon Rosé, and Cristal. As they were driving to the liquor barn, it became evident that the guys in the van with Davis were worried that Suge would get some of his police hitmen to come back and try to kill them if they went after them. It really pissed off Keefe, because why would they start it all if they were actually afraid? And so, he sat in the other guy's white Cadillac so he can go chill. He pulled out the Glock that Zip had given him and tossed it in the back seat. Bubble Up did the driving. Baby Lane and Freaky were riding in the back. A few blocks down, they were sitting at the light. And guess who they saw? The death row caravan hit the corner with Tupac hanging out of the window of a black luxury BMW waving to his fans. If Pac hadn't been hanging out of the car, they would have never seen him. As they sat in traffic, they slowly rolled past the long line of luxury cars they had in their caravan, looking into each one until they pulled up to the front vehicle and found who they were seeking. Like two rams locking horns, Suge and Keefe D looked each other dead in the eye, their eyes locked. The terrified expression on Suge's face read, "Damn, it's them." Pac pulled out a strap, and that's when the fireworks started. One of Davis's guys from the backseat grabbed the Glock and started busting back. The first shot skinned Suge in his head. Keefe D heard stories claiming that Suge actually hid behind Tupac, but they're not true, and Suge was the first to get injured. After this incident, they hung out as if nothing had happened. They left the Cadillac and the gun was hidden in one of the wheels of the car. The next day, they came back to get the car and the gun was gone. Greg Kading, who was investigating the murder, said that after the shootout, Puff called Keefe D.
And Keefe D, I'm sorry, Puffy asked him, man, was that us? Was it, what just happened out there? Keefe D's like, yeah, that's us.
But the most interesting part is that there's some information going around saying that Puff had paid Zip $1 million to kill Pac, but that the money was never shared with Keefe D.
If he gave the money, Puffy will be in prison now, money for hire.
The FBI said they were just Zip.
So the FBI told you the
They said he
same
was a
thing?
dirty motherfucker, yeah.
So the FBI told you that Zip kept that money as well?
They said Zip's a dirty motherfucker. Everybody crossed you.
Now, it was this documentary that claimed, which we know wasn't true.
Yeah, check this out. We don't talk about things that are nonsense. We don't even entertain nonsense, my brother.
It's also worth saying that he confessed that Suge paid $60,000 to his nephew so that Orlando can testify in court that Suge didn't attack him. However, that didn't help the boss of Death Row Records one bit, and Suge was sentenced to 9 years behind bars. What do you think about this situation? What awaits Keefe D and Puff Daddy? Let us know in the comments.
Okay,
To the channel. See you soon.
So as y'all can see, like, the shit went down, y'all. It really went down. You had Puffy offering $1 million, but I don't care who you are. Somebody offer you $1 million off somebody. I don't care if it's the president of the United States. You're gonna think real hard about that money. And the timing was right. They was thinking about, hey, $1 million. Think about that. $1 million to take out Tupac. And on top of that, it was paid. So now Keefe arrested. What do you think he's gonna do? What do you think? They got all this information that you really put a battery in people's back. You really set it off just because you didn't get paid. Just because you didn't get paid and you're mad now, that doesn't mean anything. You set them off and you was like, let's do this hit. Everybody that was in the car is dead now, except for Keefe D. So really, Keefe D is the only one that's going to take responsibility for this. You think for 1 minute he's not going to tell on Puff? Like, think about that. You think for 1 second he's not going to tell Puffy to try to save his life? When I tell y'all, it's about to go down. And now Puffy, you see, Puffy didn't even want to talk about it. He didn't want to talk about it on the radio because things would come out. So he's been quiet this whole time. This whole time he's been getting accused, he's been quiet this whole time. Why? Because he allegedly had something to do with it. He was calling shots. And if you seen when Tupac died, it's almost like they were celebrating. They was going back out to the West Coast, they were celebrating. That's what pissed people off to kill Biggie. So his artist, really Puffy is responsible for Tupac and Biggie's death. If this is correct, Sean P. Diddy Combs changed rap forever. He's responsible for Tupac death. Tupac death was a retaliation, and Biggie death was a retaliation of Tupac. Sean P. Diddy Combs set that whole thing off, and he's sitting here living like a king. A freaking king. Came out with his own CD after Biggie died. A couple of his own CDs. Like, I'm gonna take over the rap game. That was his mentality. He screwed all his artists, kept all their money, and now he's giving their publicity rights back. Why do I think he's giving his publicity rights back? Because he know he about to hit the fan. And he know all that shit gonna be compensated from him. You can't be a murderer and hold on to that shit. You paid to have that man slain. We're gonna watch this other video, y'all, so we get a little bit more information. And I want y'all to check it out and tell me what y'all think. Please comment, like, and share so we can get a good understanding.
For 27 years, the family of Tupac Shakur has been waiting for justice. We are here today to announce the arrest of 60-year-old Dwayne Keith Davis.
You have to be curious to what they raided his house about. You know, Keefy D was doing a lot of speaking.
You know that old saying, how lies can keep spinning for ages, but eventually the truth kicks down the door? Well, guess what? Today might just be the long-awaited day. Fresh Reports just spilled the tea that they've nabbed Tupac's killer. And hold on to your hats, because it looks like the heat might be closing in on Diddy, too.
Do you feel like Puffy owe you?
Yeah, he should. I think he should look out. He look out for everybody. You know what I'm saying?
All them gnats, you know, they can't really touch me. Y'all, at the end of the day, y'all see and y'all know what it is. You know, the track record.
So what exactly is going on? The murder of the iconic rapper Tupac Shakur has been a chilling unsolved mystery that has haunted the music industry. And
look how nervous Puffy is when he's talking about it. Because I don't care, he really don't have no conscience. This is a man that has no freaking conscience whatsoever. But when he talk about it, it's so big. These are two big people. And his guy got killed because of that. Now imagine if that ever leaked out to the industry, which is about to. People are gonna hate Puffy. They're gonna hate Puffy because he's a so-called rapper who people probably wrote his raps, but he came out like a flower, a rose, and all this bullshit, and paid everybody off. So let's take a look.
Fans for over 2 decades. However, recent developments suggest that the long elusive truth might finally be emerging from the shadows. In a twist of fate that could only happen in the world of sensational scandals, Las Vegas detectives slapped the cuffs on none other than Dwayne Keith D. Davis, a 60-year-old gang leader with a penchant for trouble. His arrest has sent shockwaves through the industry and given a glimmer of hope to those who have longed for justice in Tupac's murder case. Mopremi Shakur, Tupac's stepbrother, couldn't help but express mixed emotions about the arrest. He called it bittersweet, raising an eyebrow as he revealed that they had been well aware of Keith D's involvement for years. The million-dollar question remains, why did it take authorities so long to nab a suspect who had been brazenly spilling the beans about his role in the crime? Homicide Lieutenant Jason Johansson didn't mince words during a riveting press conference following Keith D's arrest. He labeled Davis as the leader and shot caller, leaving the room buzzing with questions. Interestingly, many of the facts surrounding the case were already in the hands of law enforcement during the early stages of the investigation. But the case took an unexpected turn when Keith D started making admissions to his involvement in 2018. Sheriff Kevin McMahon chimed in, making it crystal clear that this case was far from over. He assured the public that they were actively building a successful prosecution. It's safe to say that Nevada's grand jury was convinced, as they indicted Davis for the murder after several months of intense deliberation. His arrest came as a surprise while he was casually taking a stroll near his home. What sets Keith D apart from the run-of-the-mill suspects in this case is his astonishing willingness to spill the tea publicly. He openly admitted to being at the scene of the drive-by shooting that claimed Tupac's life in 1996. He didn't stop there. He even confessed to passing the murder weapon to another gang member, making it all too clear that there were skeletons lurking in the hip-hop world's closet. But wait, there's more. In a shocking 2019 tell-all memoir titled Compton Street Legend, Keith D spilled the beans on his involvement. He claimed to have been cruising in the very same Cadillac that was involved in the shooting. In this explosive literary piece, he let the cat out of the bag, stating that he had actually informed authorities about his participation in the back in 2010 during a super-secret meeting with federal and local law enforcement. However, Davis alleged that the authorities had promised him immunity in exchange for his cooperation, raising eyebrows about the handling of the case. And it doesn't end there. In the riveting documentary, Who Tupac? Released in 2018, Keefe D dropped the mother of all bombs. He boldly stated that he was riding shotgun in the car with his nephew, Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, on the night of the murder. He went even further, confessing to handing Anderson the murder weapon moments before the fatal shots were unleashed. Tupac Shakur was a mere 25 years old when he was struck down by 4 bullets to the chest on that fateful night of September 7th, 1996, in Las Vegas. His untimely demise left the world in shock, and now Keefe D's audacity to openly discuss his role in the crime is causing seismic waves in the music industry, especially considering the high-profile nature of the case. In a move that smacks of a Hollywood thriller, Las Vegas police swooped down on the Henderson, Nevada residence of none other than Keefe D's wife, Paula Clemens, this past July. This operation was all part of the ongoing investigation into Tupac's murder, with authorities hoping to strike gold by uncovering evidence that could tie Davis to the crime. During the search, the police struck pay dirt. They recovered a stash of .40 caliber bullets from the property, crucial pieces of evidence that will undergo forensic scrutiny to determine if they are in any way connected to Tupac Shakur's tragic death. The authorities' decision to raid Keefe D's wife's home speaks volumes about the intensity of their pursuit in this case. It sends a clear signal that law enforcement is closing in on Davis, who has previously claimed that Sean Diddy Combs had distanced himself from him years ago. These developments suggest that Keefe D's revelations may have far-reaching repercussions that extend beyond his own involvement in the crime. But here comes the most crucial of this tantalizing tale: the potential connection between Sean Diddy Combs and Tupac Shakur's murder. Diddy, the music mogul himself, has managed to dance on the edge of legal repercussions for his alleged involvement in the crime, but recent twists in the story are dragging him back into the blazing spotlight. Scores of individuals, from ordinary bystanders to A-list celebrities, have woven a web connecting Tupac's murder to Diddy in one way or another.
Everybody already having the in the back of their mind, like, that he had something to do with it. Like, it's basically evident.
The theories swirling around Diddy's involvement gain traction when you peer into the murky motives and shadowy intentions lurking beneath the surface. Detective Greg Coding, a former member of the Los Angeles Police Department who is knee-deep in the Tupac Shakur murder investigation, shines a light on the labyrinthine complexity of Diddy's alleged involvement. Coding suggests that Diddy's motive may have been to shield himself from the wrath of Suge Knight, who was actively seeking vengeance for the 1995 death of a friend in Atlanta, a tragedy for which he held Diddy responsible. After Tupac's tragic demise, Suge Knight allegedly dug deep into his pockets and coughed up a cool $13,000 to hire his own hitman, a Bloods member named Wardell Poochie Faust, to snuff out Christopher Wallace, also known as Biggie Smalls, a celebrated artist and a close friend of Diddy's. This was a retaliatory move that sent shockwaves through the hip-hop world. But the real kicker is this: how did Diddy get wind of Suge Knight's vengeful intentions? It's as if he had a crystal ball predicting the danger that was headed his way. This knowledge raises a red flag, suggesting that Diddy may have had an inside source, possibly someone with ties to Suge Knight's inner circle. And who better to fit that role than Keefe D, the man of the hour with his reputed gang connections? One of the most enduring enigmas surrounding Tupac's murder is the whereabouts of the murder weapon itself. While the police managed to recover bullets and casings from the crime scene, the actual Glock gun used in the shooting has remained as elusive as a ghost in the night. Conflicting reports and rumors have swirled around the status of this elusive weapon. In 1998, a .40 caliber gun was shockingly discovered in the garden of a Compton residence, sparking speculation that it could be the murder weapon. However, ballistic tests on this firearm promptly ruled it out as a potential match. Detectives meticulously compared the casings found at the crime scene to the markings that the gun would have left on fired bullets, and the results were a resounding no match. In a bombshell revelation featured in the documentary Who Tupac, Keefe D dropped a truth bomb that sent shockwaves through the airwaves. He claimed that the actual murder weapon mysteriously vanished on the night of the murder itself. Detective Coding himself underscored that without the murder weapon, any connections made between the discovered bullets and the murder could be considered circumstantial at best. In essence, the enigmatic disappearance of the murder weapon has thrown a massive spanner in the works, severely hampering the progress of the investigation and making it an uphill battle to establish concrete evidence. But here's where the plot thickens even further, folks. In a jaw-dropping revelation, former heavyweight champion Mike Tyson appears to assert that he possesses concrete evidence linking none other than Diddy to Tupac's death. In a candid interview with DJ Vlad, Mike Tyson made a heartfelt confession, admitting that he bears partial responsibility for the tragic loss of the iconic rapper. This unexpected disclosure has left the world stunned and reignited interest in the mysteries surrounding Tupac's death.
From prison and explained that Tupac was at the Indiana Black Expo, wanted to meet me, and that's the first day I met him.
The admission not only sheds new light on the circumstances surrounding Tupac's death, but also unveils the intricacies of the interconnected lives of these two influential figures. The friendship between a boxer and an activist may have seemed unusual, but it was truly genuine. It all began when Iron Mike was already a star, while Tupac was still trying to make a name for himself. Their paths crossed in a nightclub where the aspiring rapper amazed the baddest man on the planet with his incredible singing talent. Moreover, the charismatic singer's passion for boxing brought them even closer. This shared interest in the sport is what led them to start hanging out together and cultivate an unbreakable bond of friendship. Anyway, in a recent Drink Champs interview with DJ EFN and Noor, released on Sunday, June 11th, Iron Mike opened up about his 1992 prison stint, sharing a mind-blowing interaction with the legendary West Coast artist that caused an uproar during his visit. While at an after-party at the Palladium on Sunset in California, Mike instructed security to allow a group of young men to enter through the back of the venue, and one of those men turned out to be Tupac. Once he came into the visiting room, and there was all these hillbilly hicks, mean Aryan guys. As soon as he came up, everybody started clapping, Tyson said. They respected him. Soon as he came in the room, they started applauding. Before, Mike Tyson had shared this story with DJ Woo Kid, along with former NBA players Matt Barnes and Stack Jackson, during an episode of his Hot Boxing podcast. This was after the New York DJ had pointed out the incredibly rare artwork Tyson possesses, depicting Tupac's compelling Machiavelli album cover artwork. The guards are saying that, "Hey, stop, sit down." He was Woo. He was a force, Tyson told Barnes, Jackson, and Woo Kid of the encounter. If he loved you, it was all love. But if he didn't like you, he looked for beef sometimes. He wanted you to know he was there. He continued, "Everywhere I go, out in Africa and Europe, people ask, what was Tupac like? How was Tupac everywhere all over the world?" This is what he wanted. He wanted to be immortal. During his Drink Champs interview, Mike Tyson elaborated on how the meeting came about, sharing that he had only met the hit-em-up lyricist 6 months before his 1992 imprisonment. Tyson also revealed that it wasn't Tupac who reached out and made the initial contact prior to the rapper's visit.
Everywhere I go, out like in Africa, Europe, how was Tupac? What was Tupac like?
Right.
Throughout the course of the interview, Tyson goes on to speak at length about the visit and also name-dropped several other A-list celebrities who visited him, including Whitney Houston and more. "I had everybody. B.B. King, James Brown, Whitney Houston, Florence Henderson. Everybody came," he said. "I can't even name them all. Just so many people came to visit me." During the interview with DJ Vlad, he further recalled the time when he forced Tupac to come and see him fighting. On September 7, 1996, Tupac attended Mike Tyson's match against Bruce Seldon at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. Tyson wanted him there, but looking back, the boxer believes that Tupac might still be alive if he hadn't pressured him to attend the match. He even elaborated that Tupac wanted him to go to 622, but he insisted him to come to Las Vegas. "I know who I am. I know what my element's about," he continued. "This is just what happens in my world. That was part of my world. Just because it was Tupac and I was attached to it, it was different." Nas, who had a brief feud with the rapper, also had plans to meet the Dear Mama lyricist in Vegas, as they'd begun to put an end to their beef just a few days earlier. "We both knew we were supposed to continue that conversation and probably just squash the whole thing. I was scheduled to meet him in Vegas," the Queen's rapper previously revealed. After some days of that fight, it was reported that Tupac had been found dead.
Yes, I remember that fight because I remember talking to Tupac, making sure that he would have the tape because I was coming out of his with his music. Yeah, and I was calling make it on time.
As Tyson was coming out of his music, he decided to meet Tupac on his own. Unfortunately, the meeting could not be made possible as Tupac died that day. "I was at my house. I just had a brand new baby girl. I couldn't believe it. I told him I am coming to see you. I get dressed, then I had to go. I had to see my daughter and somebody told me he had got shot, and the next morning they had released that he had died." To this day, Tyson carries the weight of regret, haunted by the thought that if only he had arrived a few minutes earlier, he might have been able to help Tupac and prevent his tragic death. The pain of not being able to protect his friend and witnessing the aftermath of that fateful night still lingers in his heart.
This is what happens in my world. That was part of my world. My world just happens. But just because it was Tupac and I was attached to it, it was different.
It's a burden he carries with him, wishing he could turn back time and alter the course of events. The memories of their friendship and the bond they shared serve as a constant reminder of what could have been and the profound impact Tupac's loss had on his life.
I expect somebody to die after a fight or somebody get hurt, something crazy happened. But when it happened to him, it was different.
On September 13, 1996, the world lost the iconic musician after a brave battle for his life. His untimely death left a void in the hearts of countless fans, and the mystery.
So that is a little background, but as you can see, everything is really pointing at this time to Puffy as being the one who sent out those hits. We're gonna watch one more video, y'all, and this is about the beef and how it started. Let's check it out.
Peace and love. Here we go. Who shot you? Separate the weak from the opposite.
Trust nobody.
If you was to get shot 5 times, mine is that's completely spinning, you know what I'm saying? You're real confused about your situation.
I'd like to tell Tupac to keep his guards up. We ride with him.
And we will bring a new government here that will feed every person in New York.
He felt he was gonna die soon.
Yeah. As you already understood, in this video, we will look at the deadly beef between Tupac and Biggie, friends who became victims of circumstances, which eventually led them to becoming enemies. This beef was named East Coast vs. West Coast. Vibe magazine constantly talked about it, which pissed off many rappers.
When I saw that cover, I said, man, what the is going on?
We have gathered a lot of information for you so that you can fully understand what was happening between the two legendary rappers. When making this video, we researched a lot of information on the internet and watched various documentaries on sites that might have had viruses. However, NordVPN came to the rescue, making sure that we were protected. NordVPN blocks malware, stops intrusive tracking, avoids malicious ads, and when threat protection is enabled in the settings, it can protect your browsing, even when you're not connected to a VPN server. Also, NordVPN will help you bypass blocked sites in your country, help to get the best prices on flights and travel tickets, and many other features that you cannot do. NordVPN is on a mission to make the internet a better place than it is today. It takes its inspiration from the Nordic ideals of confidence, trust, and innovation. They value their customers' freedom of choice and strive to be innovative with their technology. One of the best features of NordVPN is that it is great for unlocking movies and series on streaming sites such as Netflix, so that you can access content that may not ordinarily be available in your country. Go to nordvpn.com/musicvibe to get the 2-year plan with an exclusive deal, plus 4 bonus months free. It's risk-free with NordVPN's 30-day money-back guarantee. Tupac and Biggie first encountered each other in 1993. The latter had a pair of extracurricular goals on his business trio to LA, to find weed and meet Tupac. A local dealer got a hold of Tupac, who invited Biggie and his party to his house, which shared with them a big freezer bag of the greenest vegetables I'd never seen. According to Uptown Record intern Dan Smalls, who was part of the group, Tupac got them high and pulled out a green army bag filled with handguns and machine guns. So now, here we are in this backyard running around with guns just playing, continued Dan Smalls in the fader. Luckily, they were all unloaded. While we were running around, Pac walks into the kitchen and starts cooking for us. He's in the kitchen cooking some steaks. We were drinking and smoking, and all of a sudden, Pac was like, yo, come get it. And we go into the kitchen, and he had steaks and fries and bread and Kool-Aid. And we just sitting there eating and drinking and laughing. And you know, that's truly where Big and Pac's friendship started. Big slept on Tupac's couch whenever he came back to California. And when Tupac was in New York, he came by Biggie's neighborhood, picking him up in a white limousine and throwing dice with the locals. As Lil' Kim says, one day, Pac came with a garbage bag full of weed. All the boys from Junior Mafia were hanging out in the neighborhood. They started talking, chill, and didn't stop until they smoked everything. And Tupac came up to Lil' Kim and asked, "Who is this?" And Biggie said, "Chill out, that's my girl." And he went, "Fat bastard, what the fuck are you doing to her?" Then they laughed. Tupac was already a famous rapper, while Christopher Wallace was a star only in Brooklyn. According to hip-hop artist Edie Amin, Tupac regularly took his time to teach new rappers how to succeed in the industry, but he especially focused on Biggie, who wanted him to become a part of his group, Thug Life. Pac took it upon himself to influence the young Wallace, having in mind that he would focus on writing tracks for a female audience. If you want to make your money, you have to rap for the bitches. Do not rap for the guys. The bitches will buy your records, and the guys want what the bitches want, Pac said.
It's all a nigga knows, flipping on foes, putting tags on toes, watching the stash grow, clocking the cash flow.
But before Ready to Die came out, Biggie worried he could miss his shot, considering that the new label he was signed to, Bad Boy, owned by his manager Sean Puffy Combs, hadn't taken off yet. Things weren't happening for him quickly enough, he complained. He asked Tupac to take over as his manager, in hopes Tupac could advance his music and film career as rapidly as he'd done his own. Tupac declined the offer and told him to stay in Bad Boy, where Puff Daddy would make him a star. Tupac Shakur met Jaquise Agnew, nicknamed Haitian Jack, in a Manhattan nightclub. Tupac was attracted by his luxurious lifestyle. "I used to dress in baggies and sneakers. They took me shopping. That's when I bought my Rolex and all my jewels," Tupac said. "They made me mature. They introduced me to all these gangsters in Brooklyn. One day, Tupac said to me, 'I'm glad I met you when I did, because it really helped with the character that I was working on,'" Jack recalls on Hip Hop Uncovered. "Then I said, 'You got something for me?' He was like, 'Yeah, man, just your swagger, the way you handle yourself, how everybody's always around you.' That was important for me to see that happens, that people gravitate to a gangster." However, Biggie warned him that he was a shady guy. On November 18, 1993, during a party, Tupac met 19-year-old Ayanna Jackson, with whom he spent the rest of the night. A few nights later, Haitian Jack informed Pac that Jackson was coming back over. Tupac said Jack was making everyone drinks in what appeared to be an evening that was nothing out of the ordinary. Biggie Smalls was reportedly there, waiting to accompany Shakur to a New Jersey show, but he left shortly after Jackson's arrival.
And had sex with Tupac that night while I was on top of him. Then he got up and he left.
According to Jackson, she and Tupac were in his bedroom alone when other men entered and they proceeded to rape her. Tupac said that when the other men walked into the room, he left, feeling weirded out by the group setting. He said he talked with his publicist in another room, felt groggy, and went to sleep. He awoke to Jackson yelling at him for allowing them to assault her. Before the cases against Pac and the other two men were brought to court, Haitian Jack pleaded guilty and received a lenient sentence.
The only way I've been practicing my whole life to live my life is to be responsible for what I do. I don't know how to be responsible for what every black male did. Print the facts so everybody can sort it out. My life is ruined because nobody has a chance to get the facts.
One day, Tupac was in New York. He was going to Quad Recording Studios. At the time, Tupac got contacted by Jimmy Henchman, a known associate of Haitian Jack, to appear on a Little Sean song, an artist he represented. That same night, Big was in the studio with Junior Mafia when they were working on a song Players Anthem. This was the group's first studio session. Lil C's was smoking on the balcony and saw Tupac walking in with a red bandana. They exchanged words, and Lil C's returned to the studio, where he told Big that he had seen Tupac, and Biggie said, "Bring him to us." He went to meet him, and when he came down, he saw Tupac and his men lying on the floor. Two robbers pointed guns at them and told them to get back into the elevator. They went upstairs and told Big that they were being robbed. He didn't believe it at first, and then Tupac was lying on the floor, covered in blood. Pac was shot many times, at least twice in the head. He was robbed of $40,000. Tupac was in a critical but stable condition. First, he went up to Biggie and Puffy. Tupac said the crew looked surprised and guilty, but Puffy claimed they showed him nothing but love and concern. Tupac was told that he needed to go to the hospital, and he was hospitalized. All this happened one day before Pac was sentenced for rape, which ended in a loss for him, and he went to prison. Pac had a feeling that it was a setup.
Trust nobody. Trust nobody. After dog. You know what I mean? Straight up. My closest friends did me in. My closest friends, my homies, people who I done took care of their whole family. I done took care of everything for them, looked out for them, put them in the game, everything turned on me. Fear is stronger than love. Remember that.
And couldn't believe that New York and his friends had set him up. He blamed Biggie, Puff Daddy, Haitian Jack, and of course Jimmy Henchman for this. Later, an anonymous message was passed to the NYPD for Pac. It said, "No one came to rob you. They came to discipline you." When Pac was hanging out with Haitian Jack, he met Madonna, and they had a short-term affair, which also ended in a bad way. In a prison letter, he wrote the following: "For you to be seen with the black man wouldn't in any way jeopardize your career. If anything, it would make you seem that much more open and exciting." The rapper wrote in the note, dated January 15th, 1995 at 4:30 a.m. But for me, at least in my previous perception, I felt due to my image, I would be letting down half of the people who made me what I thought I was. I never meant to hurt you. In the note, Tupac admits that Madonna shattered his ego when she remarked in an interview, "I'm off to rehabilitate all the rappers and basketball players," or something to that effect. But the MC also apologizes to the singer, confessing, "Like you said, I haven't been the kind of friend I know I am capable of being." Despite its overall reconciliatory mood, the letter includes several ominous stretches. "If there is any information you can share with me regarding Jack and crew, please do," Tupac writes. It could very well be a matter of life and death. He also warns Madonna to please be careful.
Live tale about a snitch named Haitian Jack. Knew he was working for the Fed.
A self-proclaimed participant in the robbery named Dexter Isaac told what had happened that night and who was behind it. In addition to the 4 names that Tupac named, there's also Big Stretch, who was a close friend of Pac and with whom they made songs together. After Tupac was shot, Big Stretch passed a message from Jimmy to Pac, which said the following: "You don't want to go to war with him. You don't have your money right."
You know, when you come from the hood, you like, how come my homies relying a message from my enemy? You know what I mean? So I remember looking at Pac like, something ain't up, something ain't right about this.
I just remember what you told me. You said, "Don't go to war unless I got my money right." I got my money right.
Anyway, Isaac, who is currently serving life in prison at Rikers Island, alleges Tupac's close friend, Live Squad member Stretch, was behind the attack. Stretch set the whole thing up, Isaac said in an interview. In 1994, James Rosman hired me to rob Tupac Shakur at the Quad Studio. He gave me $2,500 plus all the jewelry I took, except for 1 ring, which he wanted for himself. It was the biggest of the 2 diamond rings that we took. He said he wanted to put the stone in a new setting for his girlfriend at the time, Cynthia Reed. I still have his proof the chain that we took that night in the robbery. I want to apologize to his family and for the mistake I did for that sucker. Jimmy himself obviously said it was bullshit. However, when one charge turned into another and another, which led to the fact that he would spend the rest of his life in prison, he confessed that he was the mastermind behind Tupac's robbery. 3 months after this incident, Biggie releases the song "Who Shot Ya?", which was recorded before Pac was shot. The producer of the song understood that this was not the best time to release this project.
Who shot ya? Separate the weak from the ops. Leap hard to creep them Brooklyn streets. It's on.
Your label drop a song, "Who Shot Ya?" Who the fuck is supposed to be about, bruh? Keep it a buck.
In August 1995, the Source Awards took place, which changed the relationship between the East and West Coast. Ice Cube said in an interview that everything was on the verge of disaster. Many people had guns that night, and one extra move could change the course of the ceremony. And then there's Suge Knight, who comes out and says,
Any artist out there want to be an artist and want to stay a star, don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the video, all on the record, dancing. Come to Death Row.
It was a straight diss towards Puff Daddy, who, if we're being honest, really liked to show off in many clips of his artists. On top of that, Suge made it clear that they were on Tupac's side.
Like to tell Tupac to keep his guards up, we ride with him.
The venue erupted in boos. Why would you do that? Death Row rapper Nate Dogg thought to himself. What inspired Suge's bizarre attack? After all, he and Puffy had been cool with each other until fairly recently. They discussed how to keep the feds from tracking them. And earlier in 1995, Suge had even invited Biggie Smalls to perform at his club 662 in Las Vegas. The show never went off, but this didn't sour their relationship. What soured it was Tupac. On top of that, Snoop Dogg added fuel to the fire, which will come back to bite him in the future, but more on that a little later.
The East Coast don't love Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. The East Coast ain't got no love for Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Death Row.
As Snoop Dogg says, Tupac was his friend, and he told Suge to let him out of prison. Suge had flown straight to the Source Awards from visiting Tupac in prison. That's where Tupac not only agreed to join Death Row, but where he told Suge about his anger at Biggie. I need you to ride with me because I'm going to destroy Bad Boy Records. I believe they had something to do with me getting shot, Tupac told Suge. Suge pledged his loyalty. Tupac's enemies would be his enemies. Suge Knight and Jimmy Iovine pledged $1.4 million to free Tupac, who in turn released his Ambitions as a rider. That was his first release after coming back from prison. Pac didn't go out and party. He got to work because he had something to say. This is a reference to Big Stretch, who, by the way, was killed when Pac was in prison. Many people are of the opinion that this was revenge for Tupac, but Pac himself was not involved in the murder, especially since he did not want him dead.
You can never be live until you die. See the motherfucking bitch in your eyes. Type of nigga let the evil of the money.
But Tupac's main goal after getting out of prison was Bad Boy Records, and Biggie was the main target.
After I met Biggie, Ready to Die come out, his whole style changed. Study why I would be mad. Study why I would be mad when half of New York, half of the major New York rappers, or they managers, or they agents, or they somebody was there when I got shot, and nobody couldn't give me no information. Just study that.
That's ridiculous, you know what I'm saying? But I also understand that if you was to get shot 5 times, mine is just completely spinning, you know what I'm saying? You're real confused about your situation.
On September 23rd, 1995, Suge Knight's close friend and bodyguard, Jai Hassan Jamal Robles, was killed after a fight that happened at a club between Death Row and Bad Boy Records.
He was a good friend of him. He was a very good friend. You see them together often, and I think Suge trusted him a lot.
The published reports say that some witnesses claim that someone from Puffy's entourage was responsible for this. Less than 2 weeks later, when it came down for the How Can I Be Down rap conference in Miami, the heat was on. Suge, who has never concealed his past affiliations with LA's Notorious Bloods, was rumored to be coming with an army. Pac was said to be bringing a massive of New York drug lords and thugs. When the conference came and Puffy did not attend, Billboard reported that it was due to threats from Death Row. On December 16, 1995, there's a shooting during the filming of the video for the Dogg Pound and Snoop Dogg in New York. Corrupt and Snoop Dogg called up Suge and Tupac, and Pac said they tried to kill homies from the Death Row family. The thing is that Biggie Smalls was on the radio and said, "I can't believe New York allows the Dogg Pound and Tupac to shoot a clip in our city, in the heart of Times Square." However, Tupac wasn't there.
They weren't shooting in there to say, get out. They were shooting there to kill someone.
At one of the parties, Suge Knight and quite possibly Pac began to beat out information from a person from the Bad Boy party about the whereabouts of Puff, who by some miracle turned out to be at the Death Row party.
He might have got a few punches, and he probably drunk about 20 shots of piss. You know what I mean? Literally.
In March of '96, during another ceremony, Tupac and Suge Knight had a plan to run up on stage when Biggie was there.
I'm gonna give a shout out to my management. Puff Daddy, the whole label, and Aaron stuff.
We arrived for the award ceremony, and it was like an army invasion. Security thinks, wow, what's going on? Said Suge Knight. They went through the VIP area. There, they saw Bad Boys and some of the Crips from South Compton. It was the first time Biggie and Tupac met after Pac got shot. It is alleged that Tupac pulled a gun on Biggie Smalls that night. After recording at the studio, security guard Frank Alexander said in an interview that he had asked Tupac, "Did you ever hear what you recorded?" And he was like, "Yes, I wrote it myself." And then the guard suggested that he put on a bulletproof vest and increase security. On June 4th, 1996, the legendary diss on Biggie called Hit 'Em Up was released.
Call the cops when you see Tupac. Who shot me, but your pumps didn't. Hit 'Em Up is the song, which is a classic hip-hop record, meaning a straight battle record to all the bad boys.
But what upset Biggie the most was these lines.
You claim to be a player, but I fucked your wife. We bust on bad boys, niggas fuck.
This is how Biggie reacted in an interview. If the motherfucker really did Faye, that's foul. How he's just blowing her like that, he says. Never once did he say that Faye did some foul shit to him. If Honey was to give you that pussy, why would you disrespect her like that? If you had beef with me, you're like, boom, I'm a fucking wife. Would you be so harsh on her? Like you got beef with her? That shit doesn't make sense. That's how I don't believe it.
Faith, that was Pac's girl. That was not his girl, but that was, you know, that was him and her and Pac had something together. They was fuck buddies.
A red room, it's like a little private room that's no bigger than a bathroom. And they were in there, and he was pushing, at that time, her head down towards his genitals.
I just want to send a shout out to Faith. Hey girl, Faith and Bad Boy Records.
Even Tupac's ex told the Art of Dialogue channel that Tupac wanted to have sex with Lil' Kim or Faith Evans. But the second option was more likely, despite the fact that she was Biggie's wife. And once, Tupac called up Desiree Smith and said,
"That bitch just left my hotel." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, Faith." And I was like, "Oh."
Faith Evans had her own version. In a 2014 interview with Vlad TV, Faith Evans further expounded on the topic and admitted Tupac did ask her for sex when she went to the studio to record his 1996 All Eyes on Me single, Wanda, Why They Call You Bitch. At the time, she claimed she didn't know Tupac was signed to Death Row, the label at the center of Bad Boy Entertainment beef. Evans then went to Tupac's hotel to collect the $25,000 she was getting paid for the collaboration. And that's where she said the proposition took place.
In a very surprising and offensive way, for sure. But I mean, by that time, I think it was, you know, it was pretty clear to me that it, you know, that was all kind of, it seemed to me that was kind of like a plan.
Biggie didn't want to reply to Pac. He got the streets riled up because he got a little song dissing me. Biggie replies, "But how would I look dissing him back? My guy's just like, fuck that, man. That guy's so much on your dick, it don't even make no sense to say anything."
So I knew he knew what happened. So I was like, "Biggie, what happened?" He kept sending me messages like a bitch, you know, like, "I'm gonna come see you." No, nigga, what happened? And that's why they all, you know, it's Biggie and them, they're not riding. That's why what I'm doing, I know what I'm doing. I'm destroying him. I fucked his wife. I'm fucking him in the game. I'm destroying him. He lives by the rules of the game. He lives off a mafia image. We will bring a new government here that will feed every person in New York.
Tupac dated Kydada Jones in the middle of 1996, according to a 1997 Vanity Fair article, while Tupac was in New York for the MTV Awards in September. The two had been discussing a trip to Hawaii and talking about having a baby together. But when Tupac returned to Los Angeles on September 7th, he and Kydada first went to Las Vegas. Tupac was joining Knight at a Mike Tyson boxing match being held that night at the MGM Grand. Kydada helped Pac pack for the trip. When she asked if he wanted to bring the bulletproof vest he often wore, he answered that it would be too hot to wear it. Tupac watched ringside with Knight as Tyson won his match in less than 2 minutes. In the casino afterward, Tupac fought with Orlando Anderson, a Crips gang member. Anderson was pushed to the ground and kicked before security guards intervened. However, no official complaint was filed, and everyone involved in the brawl departed the hotel. A fight broke out because Orlando stole the Death Row Records chain, for which a reward was promised. Tupac returned to his hotel room, seeing Jones as he changed clothes. She hadn't attended the match. He left her to head to Knight's house. Then, he and Knight got into a BMW to travel to Club 662. Tupac was scheduled to perform at the club to raise money for a gym that wanted to help kids avoid violence. The bodyguards with them weren't armed, as the necessary permits for their weapons hadn't been filed. On the road, a white Cadillac pulled up alongside Knight's BMW. A gunman in that car fired about 13 rounds, hitting Tupac 4 times before the Cadillac sped off. Knight, whose head had been grazed, then drove away in the BMW. However, Knight's vehicle had 2 blown-out tires, so he didn't get far before coming to a stop.
I'm driving, telling him I'm gonna get to the hospital, kick back. Pac looked at me and said, you know what? You need the doctor more than me. You the one shot in your head. And we laughed the whole time going to find out went to the hospital.
Tupac fought for his life for 6 whole days, but unfortunately, he died at the age of 25. Napoleon said that Tupac wasn't being himself during the last few days of his life.
You know, he made us walk around, take pictures. He's like, we just don't have enough. We need pictures for memories. We don't have enough pictures with each other. And then he gave away his jewelry. A couple days later, he passed away.
He's always talking about death. Don't forget you could die, nigga. You could die, I could die, we could die, I'ma die. Nigga died, nigga. You wanna die? Die. Nigga died, death, nigga died.
So he felt he was gonna die soon.
Yeah.
I was a tragedy for hip-hop culture, in particular for Biggie. Faith Evans told how B.I.G. called her and burst into tears. I remember Big calling me and crying. I know for a fact he was in Jersey. He called me crying because he was in shock. I think it's fair to say he was probably afraid, given everything that was going on at the time and all the hype that was put on this so-called beef that he didn't really have in his heart against anymore.
But when he died, I was just like, whoa. You know what I'm saying? It kind of took me by. You know, even though we was going through our drama, I would never wish death on nobody, you know what I'm saying? Because ain't no coming back from that. So it kind of turned me down a little bit.
6 months later, Biggie had to go to Los Angeles. Many people told him that it was not the best idea to go. But Biggie's point of view was, East versus West and me against Tupac. Let me talk to the people. Let them understand that I didn't want Tupac dead. He was my friend. Biggie didn't think it was beef and wanted to leave it all behind.
But he said in one of his songs, he knows you sent somebody to shoot him that first time. Is that true or false?
Why? No, it's false. Why would I do that?
Do you think he was just hyping a record or you have no idea?
I don't know what was the problem.
Biggie went to a party and everything was fine. But that was before he got in the car. The car had just gotten about 50 yards away when it stopped at a red light. A dark-colored Impala pulled up alongside the Suburban, and the driver opened fire at the car. Biggie was shot 4 times in a drive-by shooting. He was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, but the doctor's efforts were in vain. He was pronounced dead at just 24 years old. After Biggie's death, Puff Daddy lost over 20 pounds and did not know what happened next. However, he, together with Faith Evans and 112, released the healing song, I'll Be Missing You. This is the first rap single in history that started at #1 on the Billboard chart. And in turn, Suge Knight was sentenced to 9 years in prison on February 28, 1997 for the probation violation. What do you think about the conflict between Biggie and Tupac? Let us know in the comments. I recommend watching the following video about Suge Knight. And if you
support it with life. See you
So tell me what y'all think. Leave your comments. I know this is a little long, but we just really had to get into it and we had to really digest and things like that. So tell me what y'all think. We'll get out of here, y'all. Grab some to eat. Make sure y'all like, comment, share, all that good stuff. Johnny Live, bringing it to you the only way that I know how to bring it live and giant break.